Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Sudanese authorities agree to hand over former leader Omar Al Bashir to the International Criminal Court as part of a deal with rebels in Darfur. Also, after a week of mourning for Kenya's longest-serving leader, thousands gather at Nyato National Stadium to pay their last respects to the late President Daniel Arap Moi. And in South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa pays tribute to the man who became a global icon for his role in ending apartheid. Tuesday saw the 30th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's release from Victor Verster prison. But first, Sudan has agreed to hand over former President Omar Al Bashir to the International Criminal Court. It has long wanted the ousted leader for war crimes in Darfur, including genocide and crimes against humanity. Bashir had dodged an arrest warrant, travelling abroad as friendly governments ignored the warrant. He was toppled last April, though, and the Sovereign Council, now running Sudan, has agreed to give up Bashir as part of a deal with rebel groups in Darfur. Naba Mohideen joins us now with more from Khartoum. Naba, so what has changed and why have Sudanese authorities finally decided to hand over Omar Al Bashir when before they were saying that dealing with him after the revolution was very much a domestic issue?
Actually, the ongoing peace talks resulted in this decision. Therefore, our movement, negotiating with the new government in Juba, agreed with the government, with all of the structures, the Sovereign Council, the Ministers' Council, to do this and to have this decision of handing over Al Bashir and his former regime symbols. In order to sustain peace in Darfur, they agreed on 4 mechanisms to do it, and handing over Al Bashir is the first one and the top priority for them. Also because the alleged war crimes and genocide and crimes against humanity, as the Sovereign Council stated, it needs to be referred to an international institution, justice institution such as ICC, to deal with it more, to deal with it more accurately and, to do it.
Now, we saw just last month that Sudan's leader met with the Prime Minister of Israel, suggesting that the two countries may be moving more closely together. Now we see this agreement with the International Criminal Court. What does this all say about Sudan's changing foreign policy post-revolution?
Actually, it's a shift in the foreign policy. I think the new government is trying to get rid of the former regime mistakes and correcting the ties with the international community and to get rid of the isolation. And one of it is to involve in the international community. Like the step that we saw, normalization with Israel, and right now this, and it's linked directly. The analysts link it directly of Sudan trying to get rid of SST, USSST, and to get a financial support, especially with the declining economic situation and the slow improvement in the politics generally.
Thanks very much. Naba Mohideen there for us in Khartoum. Now, after a week of mourning for Kenya's longest-serving leader, thousands gathered at Nyato National Stadium on Tuesday to see the arrival of the cortege bearing the remains of Daniel Arap Moi. He died last week, aged 95. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
Daniel Arap Moi's coffin was taken from the State House to an open-air stadium. Thousands of Kenyans lined the streets of Nairobi. Several presidents, including those of Uganda and Rwanda, attended the state funeral. Moi's critics say he was a ruthless authoritarian, but his supporters believe he brought stability to Kenya during his 24 years at the helm between 1978 and 2002. The current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, praised Moi, who died aged 95 on the 4th of February.
Kenya was and is undoubtedly better for having had Mzee Daniel Arap Moi as her son, her servant, her leader, and her role model.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga, who was jailed for several years under Moi, also delivered a speech.
I was, for example, one of the victims But he was also forgiving, like I'm also forgiving.
Under significant pressure, Moi finally accepted a multi-party system in 1992. His detractors say that during the 1980s especially, he crushed critical voices. Moi will be buried on Wednesday in his home area of Kabarak, 220 kilometers northwest of Nairobi.
In Somalia, 2 men were executed by firing squad on Tuesday after having been found guilty of gang raping and murdering a 12-year-old girl. Aisha Ilyes Aden was abducted in Gadkao in northern Puntland last February. Her mutilated body was found a day later. The brutal killing triggered public outrage and demonstrations. 3 men were convicted last May, and officials say that the case will serve as a warning to other abusers in a country where few victims of sexual violence see justice. And Tuesday was the 30th anniversary of the late President Nelson Mandela's release from Victor Verster prison in South Africa's Western Cape. Current leader Cyril Ramaphosa paid tribute to the man who became a global icon for his role in ending apartheid. Ramaphosa also acknowledged that South Africa still faces considerable challenges. Sam Bradpeace tells us more.
30 years ago. And
Cyril Ramaphosa there paying tribute to Nelson Mandela from the very same balcony where the late South African president himself addressed the South African nation following his release from prison 30 years ago. You would be hard-pressed today to find a world leader within living memory who's as universally admired as Nelson Mandela.
He still stands as a hero, especially for our culture as a black South African.
He was a leader to everybody, irrespective of our different and various backgrounds.
Mandela's release from jail make a big difference from us, but there's still more to do.
In his speech, Cyril Ramaphosa admitted that while South Africa does have strong democratic institutions, there are a number of challenges that it continues to face. Among them, violence against women, that was one example. Another example he gave, rampant inequality. The World Bank last year said South Africa was the most economically unequal country in the world. Now, it remains to be seen with the opening of Parliament how and if these issues will be addressed.
Sam Bradpeace there for us. Now, in Nigeria, a small community of vegans is trying to encourage people to eat less meat. They organise monthly meetups and cooking courses to arm themselves for what is undoubtedly an uphill struggle. They have had some success, though, as more vegan options are slowly becoming available in the country. Take a look.
When Nigerian chef Olasore Osidele became a vegan 6 years ago, he surprised many. Some told him avoiding meat was questioning God's plan. And it's not the only reason people didn't understand his decision.
Meat is more or less a status symbol here, and the more money you have, the bigger or the more meat you eat.
His friend Bola Adeyanju entered the vegan business 7 years ago. She has created a soy-based meat substitute designed to mimic local favorites. Her packs cost less than $2 and she sells them across Nigeria.
The feedback we're getting now is different from what we had 7 years ago. People are really curious about healthy lifestyle, and people are curious about climate change. So a lot of people, the awareness was not there, but right now there are education, and then people are educating, like getting to know more, and there are more products that helps people to really adopt the lifestyle.
In the US and Europe, concerns about climate change mean meat replacement proteins have become a lucrative business. Worldwide, agriculture, together with forestry, accounts for about a quarter of greenhouse gas emissions. Livestock rearing contributes to global warming through the methane gas the animals produce, but also via deforestation to expand grazing land.
And finally, the founder of world-renowned South African choral group Ladysmith Black Mambazo has died. Joseph Shabalala created and wrote songs for the choir that brought Zulu sounds to fans around the world. He passed away at 78. The group was once called South Africa's cultural ambassador to the world, and Shabalala's legacy continues to move audiences. So we'll leave you with the sounds of Ladysmith Black Mambazo and Homeless. Thanks for watching. Do so again if you can.
Somebody say, here, here, here.
Somebody sing, somebody cries, why, somebody sing, somebody cries, why, somebody sing, hello,